prosecution in the interest of justice knows no limits. Persecution of anyone is intolerable and cannot be put up with no matter what level you are in the justice system.
Alex here with a Perspectives video on empathy and experience. Donna Wilburn, a licensed marriage and family therapist with Red Rock Counseling, is going to be interviewing attorney John Hunt, who is running for Department 18 of the 8th Judicial District Court. Let's take a look.
I'm Donna Wilburn.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I've met you before. I'm a marriage and family therapist. I am what I consider an average person here in town. And when it came time for the election season, and I didn't know anything about anybody out there, so I figured it would be a good idea to get to know candidates, right? So
Excellent.
you're a judicial candidate, and I'd like you to maybe introduce yourself and talk about why someone might consider you as the best person to vote for.
Well, I think that anyone who runs for judge, I think you want someone with a broad base of experience.
So first, who are you?
Well, my name's John
Who
Hunt.
is this guy?
I am a 44-year resident of Las Vegas.
Oh, really?
I am a Air Force veteran. I have a UNLV accounting degree. I worked at the Gaming Control Board. I worked in the United States Senate for a while. I've been really blessed to have had a legal career that spans over 34 years in trial
So
experience.
is it accounting degree and a how do you call it? Legal attorney degree? Like what is
Juris
that?
Doctorate degree.
Juris Doctorate.
Right, so I have an undergraduate degree in accounting,
Okay,
and my Juris Doctorate degree came from the University of San Diego.
okay.
I always jokingly say with people, I've done everything from traffic court to being admitted to the United States Supreme Court.
I'm a therapist, I thought you said. I've done everything from traffic court to being admitted to a mental health hospital.
No.
No. He's like, no,
Now, some
not
people
that
might
one.
think the
Yeah.
United States Supreme Court is
It's
but I
close.
got it. It's a
Okay.
little different. No.
So you've had experience in what, different courts? Because I told you I'm super uninformed.
Okay. I have been in every court in the state of Nevada. Fair to say, I have done family law. I have done major litigation. Currently, I'm involved in the two biggest pieces of litigation in the state of Nevada. I'm working on the cannabis licensing case as well as the opioid case. I have
Those are
done.
serious.
Right.
Serious.
I've represented the Union Pacific Railroad, but I've also represented many individuals in every walk of life. And I think that experience, as well as my personal background, I came from a family of 6 kids, and my mom and dad were both working class people. And my experience really has allowed me to have empathy for people, not sympathy. And I think that if you have a judge, you want that judge to have the experience and have empathy,
Right.
not sympathy. And the experience factor is that, in my belief, is that a judicial position should be a capstone to a career.
Right.
It shouldn't be a stepping stone. It's so that those
Oh.
people who have worked so long, like I've been blessed, 90% of the things I wanted to do in the practice of law I've done. The last 10% I want to give back to the community. I want to use that experience so that when you come before me, then you know that I'm not asking the clerk for the questions. I'm the law clerk. I'm telling the clerk where they can go get the answer.
Right.
You don't want a judge who learns on the job.
I think
I
I've heard
said-
of that, where the clerk does all the reading and all the information. They tell you what direction to go.
No, and that's
That's not
not the
you.
way it should be. You know,
Oh.
one of the things I've also done is in the last 10 years, I've been a pro tem judge. That means I sit for judges
Is that like
in
a
both.
substitute teacher?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And I do that in Muni Court and as well as Justice Court. So I've gotten a lot of experience also in that area of the criminal justice system. So I think that whether it's me or anyone, make sure you look up the person's, past. How many courts? I've done Court of Appeals. I've done the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. I've had appeals to the Nevada Supreme Court. So you want someone that has that big breadth of experience so that when you come to a judge with a problem, it's not something new on their plate.
Right. They're like, I don't have any idea what to do with that.
Exactly.
So what exact position are you running for?
Yes, I am running for Department 18, the District Court of Nevada.
And what kind of cases do they typically work with?
Well, in that particular district has both a criminal as well as a civil aspect of it. So there's some time you're doing criminal cases, other times you'll be doing civil cases that can run the gamut, you know, from real estate matters to contract matters to injunctive matters, administrative review matters. So it is a true cross section, and fortunately I've had experience in all those areas.
So it sounds like even the position you're running for has a lot of different types of cases. So having experience working with so many different types of cases is really going to be helpful in that particular positioning as a judge.
Absolutely, and I think, again, whether it's me or anyone who's running for a judicial position, look at what they've done. See if they've done, you know, jury trials. See if they've done administrative law. See if they've done appeals.
Are there people who run to be a judge who have not
Unfortunately,
seen cases or been out there with doing cases?
Yeah, unfortunately, that is the case. And just like I've been a member of this community for a long time, I was a finalist for the district attorney's position to fill David Rogers' seat. I ran for attorney general, and I think unfortunately there are people that don't have the experience, and judicial positions are probably the hardest. What you guys are doing is truly phenomenal, because the number one question I have been such a long time practitioner, when it comes to elections, people always were asking me, who should I vote for judge? You know, and I think that having programs like this, or informing the public of who these potential candidates are and what their background and experience is truly a tremendous community service.
Thanks a lot. It was like a service. I was going to do it just for myself to be informed, but there's a lot of people out there like me who I have no clue who these people are, and I don't want to vote for someone in a decision-making position who can change people's lives if I know nothing about that.
Exactly.
That doesn't even make any sense to me. So as you're talking, and you're talking about how you had so many different cases in different kinds of arenas, and a lot of the people in front of you are going to be average, you know, middle, lower class folk, right? So sometimes, you know, high-end lawyer type or something might not be able to relate to that. So how can you, like you said, have empathy? So describe to me, like, what experience do you have that allows you to have empathy for this average Joe, middle, lower class person?
Well, I can tell you again, based upon my personal background, working myself through the Air Force, working myself through law school, undergraduates, it's really in who you are and where you came from and the kind of character you have. Example, I sit as a pro tem judge. One of the first things I do, no matter what, is when I get on the bench, I always tell everybody, good morning or afternoon, anybody, please, when I call you and I pronounce your name, if I mispronounce it, please tell me. Because it's really important to set a communications of respect. You know, everybody, I know people are afraid. I know that there's nervousness. I know that if there's an attorney on the other side, that you have to be fair and even-handed, because that's what it's all about, is looking into somebody and letting them know that they can have some comfort in knowing that they're going to be treated respectfully, with dignity. You don't
Even if they're a criminal, or, you know.
Well, exactly, because I tell, when I sit on the Justice Court, I tell everybody when I take the bench, I go, you know, we all have a book of life, you know, and if your book of life, meaning that you don't have a big, extensive criminal background, I'm going to exercise a lot of discretion, right? Right? And if you do have a big,
It's a life lesson.
right, if you do have a book of business, then know that, you know, it's going to be hard for me to exercise that discretion. Everybody should be treated fairly. The judge is the last person in that food chain that can stop injustice from happening. That's an honor and a privilege, a responsibility that anybody who takes the bench must have the desire to be fair, equitable, and so that anyone that appears in front of them, they may not like your ruling, but they'll understand that you were thoughtful, you read the papers, you understand the given area of law, and because of that, that makes it better for all of us.
So you're saying, like, it's really important to you to not discriminate just because someone stole a car or did drugs or something like that, that you want to treat them like a human and look at their pattern of behavior
Their history.
rather than just be, you're stupid or don't know what you're doing or you're less than me because you've made these choices.
No, I think that it's the opposite. I think that anybody that takes the bench, they have to look hard to within themselves. I'll give you an example. I find sometimes minorities and poor people have a tendency to be overcharged. Example, someone goes in and steals a quart of milk, right? Well, you should ask in the prosecution and in the end the judge, why did that person steal? Why are they a habitual criminal, right? Because what happens is they go in and because they're a minority and they're poor, they overcharge them. They charge them with burglary, a felony. They charge them with larceny, and then they charge them with trespass. The thing about it is,
like multiple
that,
charges for a gallon of milk.
I've said it so often that people in those positions of authority, right, is that prosecution in the interest of justice knows no limits. Persecution of anyone is intolerable and cannot be put up with no matter what level you are in the justice system. Whether you're the prosecutor, whether you're the defense attorney, whether you're the judge, you have that solemn obligation to be in the search for justice.
Wow.
And no one should be persecuted. And too often, right, like you said, there's people that because they don't have the financial means, that system can quickly stack up on them because they can be easy victims to the system. As a judge, you have to be ever vigilant to protect that from happening. That doesn't mean that if someone warrants having heavy justice bestowed upon them, it's got to happen. But they'll understand why, and it won't be something that, it won't be a whim, and they'll understand that when you have done certain things in your life, you still have to be held accountable. But that accountability was blind. It didn't care what your gender was, what your sexual preference was, what your ethnic background or economic background. It should be that. And that's one of the toughest tasks that a judge has to do. And in my opinion, the way a judge can execute that duty more fairly is based upon their personal background, their educational background, and their judicial as well as legal background in being presented in that position to make those kind of good decisions.
And it's interesting because as you're talking, as you go through life and you get experience and you get older and hopefully wiser, you start to realize how important that is to not discriminate, to be fair. So in my head, I'm thinking about younger, less experienced folk, are they going to be able to have that perspective and be, I like how you said the accountability is blind. And I'm thinking, I don't know if the younger crowd is there yet, where they can really, I think it takes some, experience, life experience to get there.
It's so important because when you're looking at your situation, I remember when I was younger, and I always believed experience was so important. And sometimes when you see these inexperienced people try to obtain those positions, I hate to say it, I sometimes say to them, go get a life, then come back and tell me how to run mine.
Okay, that's a good life. Good line. Go get a life, then you can tell me how to run mine.
Exactly.
So one thing you were mentioning earlier is that you've been in town a long time.
44 years.
You went to UNLV for your accounting, and I guess you came back. You must have liked it here a little.
Oh my God.
So it's a community. Like once you've been in town for a long time, you start to get a bit invested in it and want to help it grow and improve the community itself.
Right.
So how can you take this position? Like, let's say the position, you're going to have a little exposure there. You're going to be maybe more well known. How can you take that position to improve either, I don't know, the educational system or the community, or how can you do that? It's going to, if you do get to be a judge, it's going to give you a little more say.
See,
things like that.
I think that's a responsibility and obligation of every citizen to make this a better community. Since I've been here, I've been involved in the community in multiple ways, whether it was payback program where I go into the schools, and I've done that for years to try to keep kids in school.
In like
and
a
all the-
truancy program?
No, to try to tell them the value of an
Oh, the
education, that all their dreams can come true if they fill up their bucket of knowledge. I think that as a judge, you have a responsibility to get off that bench, to go out into our community and explain to them the justice system, whether it's criminal or civil, and to inspire young people to want to be in that position. That's how you make the community better, by you leading by example. And I've tried to do that in every way. I've been involved with my church. I've been involved in Little League. I've been involved in, raising money for so many charities. But that's something, if you want to make this place better, and when you do those things, here's the best part. When you're selfless, it's really being selfish, because the good
Right, it feels
feeling
good.
that you have is like incredible.
Right.
And you see people that have that kind of dedication. So if you go on the bench, you can't be a hermit over there. You have to get out into the community and explain to them what is going on. Go to the schools. Teach every, and I'm not talking just high school, I'm talking every level. There's a way that you can communicate with people on every level if you want to make that effort. And so to me, I really think that if you're going to take on that position, you've got to be able to say, it's not just what's here at the Clark County Courthouse, it's what's out there in the community. And how can I make it better? How can I help my fellow citizens help me by having a better understanding of the system?
Right. And I have to tell you, even just talking, I'm 50-something years old, and I'm now learning about a system I had no clue about before. And this legal system, as well as this political system, is, to me, it's, people have to learn about it. And I think that's super important.
My dad used to say it every day. What'd you do today? What'd you do today to make this a better place?
Oh, that's nice.
And my dad, and he worked in a shoe shop. He didn't even have a high school education, but he understood the value of education, and he understand the importance of treating people fairly and equally. And he gave me the riddle of life. And the riddle of life. Yep, there's a riddle of life. And the riddle of life was, I had to always remember that I was no better than anyone else, but nobody was better than me. And if I could figure that out in between those lines, I could have a good, productive life.
Well, your dad sounds like a wise guy.
He's
Wise guy?
good
He's
guy.
such a wise guy.
Good guy. Black and white. He was black and white, right and
Yeah.
wrong. And
That's
those
neat.
are the lessons that I learned early. I had, there was 6 kids in our family. My
That's it.
dad had a 90-day rule. 90 days from graduating high school, he said, you'll be doing one of 3 things. 1, you'll be in college. Then he said, sorry, I have no dough. 2nd, you'd be in the military. Or 3rd, you'd be employed. But all 3 required you to vacate his premises on the 91st day. And on the 91st day, I was on an airplane going to Lackland Airport.
So did he enforce
Enforce it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's funny.
Except for my sister. But
she gets special treatment.
Exactly, and she left before the 90 days.
Oh, well, okay. So she kind of.
Yeah.
So let's see, as we close, if somebody wants to get in touch with you or email you or call you, how can they do that?
Okay, I'll give you I'm in the law firm of Clark Hill. My number is 702-862-8300. My email is jhunt@clarkhill.com. If you want to look up my campaign, it's John Hunt for Judge.
And John Hunt, I think people can spell that.
Yeah.
John Hunt for Judge.
.com.
.com.
I'm not used to saying that. I'm
I know you're new at this. I go, it's this website thing.
Exactly.
Well, I wish you the best, and I appreciate you coming to talk to us because I feel more informed already. So I thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me here, and thank you for all you're doing to have our community have a better way, more knowledge how to pick their judges. Because the one thing that you do have control over, unlike the federal system and the state system, you get to pick those people who are in that critical position to serve you as a judge in this community. So thank you for all you're doing here.
Thank you, John.
All right.